What's up, everybody? This is the Rough Stranger here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Transformers Galactic Trials. And in this review, I want to go over what Outright Games did right and what they did wrong. And they did a lot wrong. The first thing everyone wants to know is, how does Galactic Trials play? Is it a fun racing game? Is it fun to drive around? And I can say boosting, drifting, driving, it all feels great. Especially when you go into robot mode, and then you start shooting, and using your ultimate abilities, and then trying to find the way to open up the doorway so you can go back to driving. It just works. Although there are some moments in the combat zones where you'll get stuck by people just spawn killing you and using their ultimates, and it's just not fun. Galactic Trials has 11 characters to choose from, but unfortunately, half of them kind of reuse assets from each other and play pretty similarly. Optimus Prime and Nemesis Prime obviously play almost identical, other than the ultimate abilities. RC and Flame War use the exact same ult mode. Shockwave, Soundwave, Megatron, Bumblebee, and Wheeljack all have unique ult modes and abilities. Each character has 2 ultimates you can unlock through leveling up. And speaking of leveling up, you also can unlock skins. Each character has their base skin, a Shattered Glass skin, which half of them look really bad, and then we have the Golden Lagoon skins, which all of them look bad. You unlock this by getting a character to level 10. Every single time your character levels up, they get a random stat increase, be it health, defense, or speed. One thing to note is that Nightbird's alt mode is just Blur's alt mode from G1. Why they didn't add Blur to this game is beyond me. There's so many characters that they just have access to that would fit a racing game like this, and they just didn't. Starscream, Cosmos, Override, any of the Stunticons, Mirage, Sunstreaker, Sideswipe. Where are all of these characters in Galactic Trials? Not only that, but if you were to add Starscream, you could repurpose him into any of the Seekers. Thundercracker, Skywarp, Acid Storm, Slipstream, Sunstorm, and so many others that use his same body type. I don't understand it. This is just easy characters that they're just not adding to the game. Next, let's talk voice acting. Shockwave and Soundwave are actually the standout roles. They're doing really good takes on the characters, and I actually really like their performances a lot in this game. Everyone else does a passable job except for Optimus Prime, Megatron, Nemesis Prime, and Nightbird. Nightbird is just phoning it in, and then you have Optimus voice lines that are so bad, the Netflix voice puts them to shame. Then we get Megatron. It's like the G1 Megatron. It's very obvious the person doing the voice can do it well, but it sounds a bit too high-pitched and squeaky, so instead, I feel like it would have been better to go for something like Transformers Prime, where you had a more deeper voice. It would have been better to have something like, I'm Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. And it just ends up sounding like Starscream more than anything. Next we gotta talk maps. Anywhere from Kaon, the Velocitron, to Iacon, all the way down to the Sea of Rust. And I gotta say, the maps are really good, except for all the Sea of Rust ones. And unfortunately, they make up 3 maps in the game, and they're all terrible. Anywhere from glitches to just really sharp turns, or just combat zones that are infuriating, because once again, you get spawn killed so often. And the amount of acid and toxic energon that you will be running over. If you're one of the bigger characters like Megatron, who's more slow, you will probably end up dying a lot to the acid because it's really hard to make those sharp turns while the acid is eating away at your health. These are so unfun to play on. But a lot of the maps are very dynamic in the fact that they change over time or depending on what lap you're on. This adds a lot of replayability to maps, but unfortunately, most of the ones that are dynamic are the Sea of Rust maps. Next, we gotta talk about the roguelike elements. And in this game, they're called relics. And how you unlock relics is completing a galactic trial, and you do this by beating a set number of races with a certain character. Then you open up loot boxes in 2024? Anyways, you open up loot boxes and you get relics. Relics come in a bunch of different colors, and there's also prime relics, which are what you need to obtain all of in order to complete the game and get the final cutscene. We'll talk more about the story in the next few segments. Now, this is one of the most important things in Galactic Trials, considering that the roguelike mode, while we don't have a multiplayer, is the main hook Galactic Trials. So, how do they handle the roguelike elements? By barely even caring about them. Listen, maybe I'm spoiled by games like Hades, Dead Cells, The Binding of Isaac, Inscription, Risk of Rain 2, but these aren't roguelike elements at all. You've got to be kidding me with this. Galactic Trials gives us several rarities for these relics. We have relics you get that are gold, which are the prime relics, which we'll get to. We have common, rare, and legendary. And all of them just either give you increased stats, like you get more health, or get 45% weapon damage, or you get increased energon gain. But, you know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe it's not so bad. The prime relics have got to change up the gameplay. They've got to have some crazy items that not only either nerf or buff you in some sort of way, but completely change how the game plays. Almost every single one of them is either increased armor or new ways to get energon faster. These aren't OP game-breaking items, or even ones that make you play in a different way, like a melee build, or maybe you have it changes how your gun shoots, so it shoots a different kind of ammo type. It's just very generic, basic, bottom of the barrel stuff. I cannot believe that they hyped up a roguelike mode where the only thing different is what stat gets increased. This is abysmal, and Outright Games should be ashamed to call this a roguelike. Next, let's talk game modes. You have quick race, so you can just choose a map, choose a character, difficulty, that's fine. We have championship. Championship acts a lot like the old Mario Kart cups, where essentially every single cup has a few maps associated with said cup, and you try to complete it best you can. And then you have Galactic Trials, where you have a few maps, and you try to beat them, and this is just championship. So, yeah, Galactic Trials and Championship are more or less the exact same game mode, except Championship has dedicated maps and aren't just random. This is terrible. You've just copy and pasted the same game mode. There's nothing new here. Galactic Trials, this is what I was talking about in my video, Will Galactic Trials Succeed? Is that you need variety. Variety is the spice of life. And it seems like you've just taken the turkey out and it's still frozen. This is nothing. You haven't added anything to it. It's still frozen. You should have delayed this game and waited till you at least had a multiplayer. You had some kind of balloon battles mode like Mario Kart. You had some mini games, boss fight or two. This is terrible. This is such pitiful effort, that if there was any effort. Let's talk difficulties. Rookie is too easy. Expert mode is a nice middle ground, but it becomes way too easy when you actually get the hang of the game. And then Prime mode is way too hard, especially if you're expected to beat Prime mode with characters like Megatron and Optimus, nor the unlock other characters. It just becomes infuriating beating 7 races back to back to back to back to back, and getting first place every time, only having 4 lives. Last but not least, we have the pathetic story of Transformers Galactic Disappointment. This story pertains to cutscenes that are just still frame animation cutscenes. Nemesis Prime steals the Prime relics and then flies off in quote-unquote ancient Cybertronian technology shoots him down. And the Prime relics scatter everywhere, including Velocitron and Cybertron. Despite the fact Velocitron wouldn't be anywhere near close, and that vague Cybertronian technology shooting him down doesn't make any sense. You then race a couple races until you open up enough loot boxes till you get the final cutscene, and it shows you collecting all of the relics and putting them back where they belong. Nemesis Prime, very angry, it says Nemesis Prime will return. This is just a crappy Marvel end credits sequence. The Avengers will return in Age of Ultron. It sucks. How would have I made the story better? Well, I would have had the Quintessons actually clone Optimus into Nemesis Prime. Nemesis Prime would try to sneak in and grab the relics and fail as usual. The Autobots and Decepticons would shoot him down, and then the Quintessons would show up, and since they were divided because Autobots and Decepticons, they'd be easier to conquer. They forced them to get the Galactic Trial. The Quintessons then forced the Autobots and Decepticons to enter something called the Galactic Trials, where they have to race to the death in order to collect the Prime Relics. You race until eventually you get all of them and betray the Quintessons. You then enter a boss fight with them, and once it ends, you get a cutscene of them saying the only reason they wanted the Prime Relics is because Unicron was threatening to eat their planet, so they needed some way to fight back. Then Unicron appears on Cybertron, trying to eat the planet. And then you enter a boss fight where you're driving all around Cybertron, trying to stop him, using all of the Prime Relics and their unique abilities. Autobot and Decepticon. You eventually defeat him and drive the Quintessons, Nemesis Prime, and Unicron off of Cybertron. And that's how Galactic Trials should have been. Transformers Galactic Trials is a galactic disappointment. It's not worth the money. The only way I can ever recommend this game is if you're getting on Game Pass or it's on a mega sale. I'm talking 90% off. I've been the Brush Stranger. See you guys in the next video. Instead of buying Galactic Trials, why don't you buy another ticket to go see Transformers 1 again? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.